Okay, we're all set.
Thank you, Kathy. I'd like to call to order the Public Safety Committee meeting for Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. Welcome, everybody. And I note that we're meeting on Tuesday instead of Thursday. So we can all kick back on Thursday, I guess, when TCOG is using the Zoom link. Kathy, are there any public comments?
No, Rich, there's no public comment.
Okay. Again, an unfortunate byproduct of the COVID epidemic, I believe, that we're just not hearing from the public the way we had in the past. I'm not sure what we can do about that other than continue to encourage people to speak up. Are there any changes to the agenda? Any additions, subtractions? Seeing none, we'll keep going. We have minutes from the meeting of November 19th. Could I get a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Glenn. Henry, thank you for seconding. Any questions, comments? Ready to vote? Glenn?
Aye.
Henry?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So we've unanimously approved the minutes. Great. We do have some appointments. And as I'm sure you saw, the agenda that went out was unfortunately the November agenda, but you have the current one electronically if you didn't get it in paper. But the advisory board appointments that were attached to the agenda that went out are correct. I have Judith Griffin to the Criminal Justice Advisory Alternatives-to-Incarceration Board, and Jason Leifer and John Fitzgerald to the Advisory Board on Indigent Representation. Could I get a motion to approve those appointments?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
I'll second
Henry?
it.
I appreciate that. Okay, I would just note that we are really fortunate in our community at the caliber of the people that we get on our advisory committees. It's really, really good. At any rate, are we ready to vote? I'm going to go in reverse order this time. Henry?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So we've made our appointments. Very good. And by the way, I did not seek out a presentation for today. I didn't think we needed to have a very long meeting. And I think we can move through this pretty quickly, just so you know. And that was intentional. So you guys can go out Christmas shopping, everybody, at least if you want to. Chair's report. I have no particular report. I would like to call on Jason during the county administrator's report to talk about the police reform progress and how that's going. And I would chime in on that because that seems to be the major task before us right now. But no more chair's reports. So we can move to county administration. Welcome, Jason.
Good morning, or good afternoon. How you doing? So to give you an update on the Reimagining Public Safety, Derek and I were part of a public forum on Friday with the mayor and Chief Nair. It was the first series where we took questions from the public. We did not have enough time to get to, I think, a big bulk of questions. So we have rescheduled, or I said we should schedule another meeting for this coming Friday. I think Dominic just sent out a notice to the legislators to let them know, as well as the public notice, that we'll be doing another public forum, a live forum this Friday evening at 5 to take questions from the public. And we've also talked with the mediator to ensure that we're able to get to more questions than the last time, but we've also left for a larger time frame to do it. So again, a lot of information being collected right now. As of last week or the week before, the community voices forums ended. I think there were a total of 6 that took place. All that information is being collected. On top of that, this week, last week, the week before, next week, and I think into January, there's probably close to, I want to say, 20 different focus groups. That sound about right, Derek? Probably close to it, if not almost that. different focus groups of different different populations, hard to reach populations in the community. They're being facilitated by trained facilitators. The information and data from that group is being gathered. Also, data is being pulled from Spillman, our records management system, and dispatch data to understand calls, call volumes, those types of things. And a lot of that's then going to be synthesized, both taking the actual data from law enforcement agencies, taking the information we've received feedback-wise, and I think over the course of January, they'll be able to put together a report that will identify the process, identify the information gathered, and then common themes and approaches to recommendations that can be either implemented come the beginning of the year, or it can be evaluated further for further development and implementation. So I think the most immediate update is that we have another public forum coming up that both the sheriff and I will be attending, and then I think there'll be more focus groups that'll be coming up, probably another forum or two in January, and then towards the tail end of January, we'll have some substance, I think, to review, read, and then provide feedback on as we kind of go through this process. One thing I might have mentioned at the last public safety committee meeting, and Rich will bring it forward in January, is setting up, or at least to go and come to the legislature to request a special meeting, probably the last week of March, for the legislature to adopt what will ultimately be the county's plan for submission to the state. But we'll bring that up in January. Derek, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
I can just say, Jason, that, from the focus groups from the sheriff's office, we have a group set up for supervisors, sergeants and above, so sergeants and lieutenants, one for union members, and then one for deputies of the lower ranks. Those are all happening Thursday, I think. So they've all been briefed on those and what to expect, and we've asked them to be as honest as they can and hopefully be open and participate as well as
Great, thank you.
Okay. I guess I would add a couple things. One is we've talked a bit about how we are heading towards a deadline of April 1st to report to New York State on what our plan is. But I think it's pretty apparent to everybody participating on the groups that this process is going to go well beyond April. That will be a milestone, and certainly it's important to get a report to the governor, but it really is not anything more than a moment along the way. That really doing this in a comprehensive way is going to take a long time, and it's certainly, I believe, going to be a key component of our budget process next year, looking at all the public safety issues that are going to come before the groups and be weighed in on. Particularly, I'm thinking it certainly seems there's going to be a substantial change in how calls are received and who responds to calls. And if you think about that, there's certainly going to be a big change in the call processing, as well as trying to differentiate and send out different response, people with different skill sets to respond to different kinds of incidents. It gets pretty complex, and I'm sure we're going to have lots and lots of things going on all through 2021 to try to figure out what's the best way to set this up. The other item that I thought was of interest and worth mention is that with getting tons of comment, and Jen, you're on the call. I think you mentioned this as well, is that there isn't a differentiation between different police agencies, that people are looking at the police as the police, regardless of whether it's the sheriff or the city or Cuba Heights or Trumansburg. And from that standpoint, I think it's really good that we're doing a broader approach to the police reform, so that we have a consensus, hopefully, among all the different police agencies, how we proceed. Anyway, I'll stop talking. Anybody have any? Henry, I see your hand up.
Yes. I was wondering, Jason and Derek, what's the time frame for the forum on Friday? How long is it going to go?
I think it's initially slotted from 5 to 6:30, but we've all committed to staying for as long as we need to stay. And if there's more questions, we'll stay longer.
Okay. And is the format going to be open questions on Friday, or are you going to have prepared questions and then go to open questions?
No, it's going to be an open questions. We'll take questions both in person, meaning folks that call in, but also through the chat.
Okay. And Rich, I mean, and Jason maybe too, I assume the governor has not given any indication of what he's going to do with these recommendations after April 1st.
You are correct.
I think he made a general threat that if you didn't do it, there were budget consequences. But other than that, I haven't heard.
Like a time
Is that
frame.
true, Jason?
Yeah, there has definitely been a consequence for what happens if you don't do it. For what happens if you do it, I don't know that there's been any statement. I can tell you this, just from what it's worth. There will be a vast difference in what is submitted to the state compared to what we submit. In talking with my colleagues across the state, some who have not started the process, some who have done very limited or marginal effort, I can assure you that there will be an array of a plethora of types of things that will be submitted across the spectrum of between the counties and the state. So I will be interested to see the state's response to what they get.
Also, isn't the legislature, isn't their budget due April 1st?
The state's budget, yes, they have to adopt it. Their fiscal year starts April 1st.
So they will not be implementing any of these ideas within the state budget.
Well, I think it's safe to say that it would be difficult for them to include things that we may suggest out of these reports that the state may need to do prior to April 1st because they won't have had. So I'll expect that the governor will put something out in his budget in January that will address law enforcement and public safety reform. Whether or not it's parallel or on track with what counties are submitting or municipalities are submitting, it probably won't be. So there'll be obviously much more talk afterwards.
And have you done focus groups with Matt Lance's groups?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm getting thumbs up and a nod from Matt. So
Okay. And so when will the data collection process end, like mid-January?
I think there's some focus groups throughout this month and probably into next month, the first week of next month. But I think that's probably where the majority of it will stop in terms of focus groups and community forum information approach, gathering approach.
Good, thanks.
Sure.
Henry, you make a good point. I would think that our neighbors in surrounding counties are addressing this in a radically different way, such as the group of sheriffs who, stood up early on and sort of put their, stuck their noses out at the governor. I look at, say, Broome County, I think has a jail population close to 500, even during the pandemic. And I saw our numbers are 35 today. We are certainly different. Our crime rate is low. So, it seems to be, we're doing something right here. But I think we're probably going to have one of the most comprehensive plans of any county in the state, I would guess.
Yeah.
For better or worse. I doubt there's going to be any real money. There could be some prize, as Jason mentioned, that the governor would award for implementation of plans. Given the fiscal trouble the state is in, I wouldn't hold our breath on that one. I could see after April 1st the possibility of New York State action where it didn't have budget impact, where they could pass laws or do some changes, but I don't think there's going to be any money. Yeah.
Right.
Martha.
Hi, thanks very much, Rich. I think there might be budget impact on us, but not them. I certainly wouldn't hold out hope for carrots, but sticks maybe. So, any monetary consequences I think would be negative rather than adding sending anything our way. I apologize, I haven't seen all the forums, haven't followed every detail of this. Is the state police going through anything? This may have been covered. Is the state police doing any of this review?
I thought they were going, I know the governor when it started said they were doing their own process. I don't know what that means. Derek, you're shaking your head. So if they're doing it, I don't think we're aware of it, put it that way. Does that make sense? Yeah, I know that question was asked. I remember specifically a press conference. It must have been in June when the executive order came out. The governor made mention that the state police will go through their own process. I don't know what that is, and I don't think I've heard about it. So,
Well, as much fun as it is to be cynical, it still is really an important thing that we're doing, and really glad that everybody's working so hard on it. Thanks.
Well, you make a good point that transparency among the state police in this process would be a really helpful thing. We just haven't seen that yet, but maybe it's coming. I guess we can hope. And frankly, if we present our plan, this might be an opportunity for the governor to visit Tompkins County after the plan is released. We're certainly going to be exceptional, I think. So we'll see. Yeah. Anything else on police reform? It is going along. It's quite active on all sorts of levels. So a lot more to come, and it'll be coming to this committee. All right, next up on the agenda, the assigned counsel program. I saw Lance is with us. There you are.
Yep.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone. I don't have a lot to report today. I think as Matt, I think Matt's already probably updated some of you in other forums on this in terms of the courts. I guess that's the big thing that's affecting us. They're gradually reducing. They're trying to go to all virtual. There's a tension between in-person and virtual, but reduced activity. A couple of the town courts here are basically shutting down till March again, which is what some town courts, other counties are doing likewise. I mean, there may be some issues our attorneys and Matt's attorneys have on some cases that'll have to be resolved, but that's the big thing. You're seeing kind of a reduced activity level, and that's the main thing for me.
Okay. Any questions for Lance? It would seem that it is going to remain fairly quiet for some time to come. Is that your sense,
Yeah.
Lance?
Yeah, I think, people are still committing crimes, and I think, Matt and the sheriff may see this more, but, we see the cases coming, and we're kind of at a reduced crime level. We are, except for maybe some serious crimes, which may mistakenly amplify our view of how many of those are occurring. But there's some more, we're getting serious crimes, and reduced volume of other types of activities. One thing I've noticed, and there seems to be some disagreement about this, but you noted this, Rich, I think at an earlier meeting, I was seeing some reporting. There's been a reduced level of drug offenses going on. Fentanyl may be an exception to that in some places. But I'll just note that. I think he would raise that. And I'd seen data talking to other people after that last meeting. So there is some, it varies, but nationwide, there may be a trend on that. I think COVID probably has a big impact on that. Why, frankly.
Yeah. I think nationally, the trend is opposite to what's happened here, which is interesting, but not sure why. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Lance. And next up is our district attorney. Welcome, Matt. How are you?
Rich, I'm good. Aside from being a little cold in my office, that's normal. So Lance is right that in terms of court activity, things are slowing down quite a bit. There are 35 people, as somebody mentioned, in the jail right now, and that's great. about probably 6 or 7 of them are parole violators. But I think we will see, in terms of people who are in the jail waiting for a trial, we are going to see some people move on to the long-term inmate report. And we typically track that in the CJATI committee as individuals who are in the jail waiting trial for more than 5 months. And the reality is that there are several people who are charged with very violent offenses who are going to trial because that's their prerogative. And those cases probably will not settle, but we're not going to be able to give them a trial for many more months. And we don't know, we can't even say when there will be jury trials again in Tompkins County or in New York State. So, I mean, that's something that I'm looking at very closely. I don't know the answer. There really isn't an answer because, when we're talking about violent crimes, the people who are in jail with bail set for violent crimes have presented a danger to the community. And that's really my responsibility, is to protect the community and promote public safety. And that's, so there may be more people who are sitting in jail waiting for a trial. And we got to figure out what to do about that. But I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah. If anybody on the screen has an answer, please let Matt know. I don't know. This is really hard.
Yeah, one thing I can kind of add,
Yeah.
I think I know from defense perspective discussions they've had with clients, one of the things they're weighing is, and I think some defendants may, and it's each of them with their attorneys are going to decide. Those who want to go to trial, I think some of them are viewing this as, it's better for me to sit for a few more months in jail and have a better trial setting than try to demand a trial under COVID conditions. So I think I agree with Matt. We're going to see some people sitting longer, which will create this blip of, we have people sitting in jail past 5 months, what's going on? And it's almost all of it's going to be COVID driven in terms of impact on the courts. And some defendants are going to say, I'd rather sit and wait, which is, their prerogative. And from their perspective, that's, their best decision. But it's going to create an anomaly in the numbers. People are going to, probably in CJATI, are going to be going, why do we have 5 or 6 people now sitting for so long? And that's going to be the answer. I agree with Matt there. It creates a problem, kind of out of our control.
Yeah. This is making me wonder, where in the line are law enforcement and court personnel sitting for the vaccine? Does anybody know?
I think they're about I saw a list once, and I think it's so, how these things change, but it was healthcare, kind of the healthcare, nursing home, and then law enforcement came in. And one of the questions will be, I know back in March, I don't know if Matt recalls this, when they were talking about shutting down, they classified like prosecutors, Matt's attorneys, my attorneys, as essential workers in the law enforcement category. They're about 3rd or 4th, I think, on the list of Derek's people in the list, on the priority list. Last I saw.
Okay. Yeah, I'm wondering if you had court personnel vaccinated and lawyers vaccinated, whether you could proceed with trials. Juries would be harder.
But
I'm sorry, you broke up.
Sorry, all the court personnel have already had COVID.
Yeah, you broke up. Couldn't hear you. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, thanks, Matt. Anything else you wanted to report on?
No, I think that's it. Thanks.
Okay. All right. I know next up is the Sheriff's Department. Welcome, Sheriff and Under Sheriff. How are you doing?
Good, thanks, Rich, and hi, everybody. Just a couple things above and beyond our written report that you have, and kind of going with what you said, Rich. The state has just gone into a 30-day hold on taking state-ready inmates. They're asking for a reset. Luckily, we only have one, but you know what? You mentioned Broome County. I guess they have 54 that are waiting for to go to state, so that's causing them quite a problem. And I can say that the state isn't paying their bills. We haven't been reimbursed for any of these in quite some time. We also had the commission in last week examining our operations around COVID and the precautions we're taking. They gave us a go-ahead. They approved of everything we're doing and liked it, which of course is nice 8 months into the game. So that made us feel better. I think we mentioned in the report that we're also working with the commission on a staffing analysis at the jail. I did decide to go ahead and do that. We had a Zoom or a WebEx conversation with people there last week. There is a lot that we're not going to be able to do, as we knew, because of our linear style jail setup. But they did have some options that may provide us a little more flexibility with our staff and may reduce a little bit of overtime. I'm not sure yet. They're going to write something up for us to review, and as soon as we get that, we'll take a look at it. But that's it for me.
Okay. You know, before we go to questions, I'd like to do something a little bit out of order. On page 17 of the report of the agenda is the sheriff's report, and there's some highlights there. And I would like to read them into the record. And Jen and Derek, if you'd join me, if we could parcel these out, I can read the first one. But we've had so much focus on the conduct of police officers. I would just like to pay some attention to these deputies. And so I would read the first one in. On November 18th, the Tompkins County Sheriff's Office received a letter of commendation for Deputy Jolly. I want to thank Deputy Jolly for his work. He treated me like a person and not a suspect. I would like to thank him for his service as well as how he treated us above the stated ticket date, not accurate estimate only. He is an outstanding deputy and I'm sure an honest citizen. Thank you, sir, for all that you do. Best wishes to you, your family, and your colleagues. You guys are the best friends anyone could ask for. So pretty nice. And Sheriff, if you might read the one regarding Deputy Baker. I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah, I apologize, Rich. I don't have the report right in front of me. I'm sitting here
Oh,
trying to find it. Maybe
yeah.
Jen has it.
I'm happy to read it then.
Thank
Jen,
you.
do you have it?
Yes, I do. Okay, on
Why
November
don't you read that one?
November 18th, TSSO received a letter of commendation for Deputy Baker. Over the course of 20 years, I've had the honor to work with many of your deputies on fire and EMS calls. I have often been impressed by their professionalism and ability to handle extremely tenuous situations. Recent positive interactions on calls with Deputy Walters and Jolly make me proud to call them former students. However, I must offer my strongest commendation for Deputy Jeff Baker. In the past year, I've seen Deputy Baker calmly handle calls involving a distraught teenager intent on harming themselves to numerous drug overdoses. Recently, Deputy Baker and newer deputy, my apologies for not knowing their name, were the first to arrive on a scene of an unresponsive male in the town of Lansing. Deputy Baker and partner quickly recognized the severity of the situation and administered Narcan to the patient that was both As I told EMS personnel arrived on scene, they continued to assist. Sorry, I got a text message in the middle of it. As I had other EMS personnel arrived on the scene, they continued to assist as we maintained an airway and the young man began breathing on his own. Please extend my sincere gratitude to Deputy Baker for his truly amazing service to our community. I am certain I will continue to see honorable and brave actions amongst all your deputies under your command.
And then November 23rd, Tompkins County Sheriff's Office received a letter of commendation for Deputy Soder. If I'm pronouncing that correctly. Last night, November 22nd, I had an auto accident on Snyder Hill Road. I hit a deer and did extensive damage to the front of my car so that it needed to be towed. After calling 911, Officer Megan Soder of the Sheriff's Department responded. I was extremely impressed by how nice she was. In particular, she was friendly, very understanding, very knowledgeable, and extremely helpful at a time when I was very stressed over the accident. Everything she did made me feel less stressed. For example, she gave me the accident information exchange form very soon after taking my information. She waited patiently while I spoke with my insurance company. After the towing had been arranged, she offered to wait for the truck and said I could then arrange for someone to pick me up, which I did. Just before my wife picked me up, I realized that the front license plate was missing. I mentioned that to Officer Soder, and she said she would go back up the road to find it and put it in my car. Then I left knowing that the whole situation was well under control with Officer Soder there. Sure enough, I found out this morning that she had found the lost license plate and put it in my car. Officer Soder clearly is an excellent employee of your department and greatly deserves recognition for what she does for the people she helps. So thank you for indulging me. I wanted those read into the record because there's been so much negative press about police officers, and some of it, frankly, is justified. There's some, awful scenes out of Minnesota, but on a day basis, our deputies are doing really good things, and they deserve mention too. So thank you for letting me maybe take a few minutes to do that.
If I could add, Rich,
Yeah,
quickly.
Sheriff, did you?
Our corrections officers don't usually get letters sent, but I can tell you on Thanksgiving Day, we did have an inmate choking, and we had 3 COs involved in saving that person. So just a kudos to them as well.
Yeah, well, thank you for bringing it up. I think it might help just to get that message out there. So anything else from the Sheriff's Department? Any questions, comments? All right, we're zooming through our meeting. Department of Emergency Response.
Resolution, Rich.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, there's a resolution. And on page 20, thank you, Glenn. This is resolution ID 9749, appropriation from contingent fund, replacement pay and terminal pay reimbursement, Sheriff's Office. Could I get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Henry, can I get a second?
Yes, second.
Thank you. All right, questions or comments on the resolution? It does seem like there's a significant number of people out on 207C or on disability. Anything out of the ordinary going on, Sheriff? This just accumulated.
No, it's just accumulated. It's just the normal disability type issues. Nothing extraordinary.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Glenn,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Well, it passes. Okay, and then I think we're ready to go to Department of Emergency Response. And I saw Ryan is there.
Yep. Thanks, Rich. Happy holidays, everyone.
Welcome.
You have our Tomstat report for last month. In reviewing it, I didn't see anything extremely out of the ordinary. I know that for the past several meetings, there's been an emphasis on domestic disturbance or domestic violence. Those numbers are up 35 from the 5-year average, but right above it, disputes are down 30. So again, that may be in the eye of the beholder, maybe not. It's hard to tell. But other than that, it seemed like fairly normal, and the call volume is pretty much the same as it has been normally for at least the past several years. If there's no questions on that, and I apologize for not being prepared to chime into the police reform discussion, but there was mention made about at the end of this how calls that are received and how calls are dispatched and who is dispatched may very well change, and I get that. I think it's good that in your talks so far, it's pretty much been viewed as police are police. That's a good thing, because I can picture where our dispatch staff would have to dispatch differently depending on what agency was going to be responding. That would definitely be a challenge, and it's not something that I'm sure that they would look forward to do. But I can see that there's going to be probably a big need for training of our staff as this gets figured out, especially who's going to be dispatched to where. And so I would think that at some point you would want some sort of involvement actually with the dispatch staff as these things are being discussed or decided upon or whatever.
I think you make a good point there, Brian. And yeah, I can tell you at the law enforcement working group, there's discussion about a model out in Eugene, Oregon, where they use volunteers who are, trained, but they go out and respond to certain kinds of calls. And it's been in place for a long time, and it seems to be pretty successful there, but I wonder about how it works. And as a lawyer, I just automatically think about the liability issues.
That's
how that
what I'm getting at.
Yeah. There's certainly going to need to be a lot of attention paid to how we address any changes we want to make as a system, including emergency response. Clearly, yeah. Okay. Henry, did you have something?
Yes, Brian, I wanted to maybe update us on the 911 to text status.
The 911 what?
911 to the text to 911. I mean that.
Text to 911.
Right.
Jess, are you still on there?
I am. Yes. Hi. The text to 911 has been delayed until next year. It's a combination of several factors, including COVID, but a lot of it has to do with Motorola and the time frame in which we would need to get equipment and installation and everything else. And because it's grant funded, and that grant is January 1st through December 31st, there's just not enough time. So we plan to start with that after the first of the year.
Okay, how long will it take to implement?
I don't know the answer to that question. It's all based on when we can get the equipment and when the installers can come and do the work that they need to do. 3 to 4 months, maybe.
Okay.
Motorola's been backed up quite a bit.
Okay. Okay.
That's why we want to start as early as we can after the new year, so that we have time just in case that is delayed. The problem is that we are still awaiting the request for applications on the PSAP grant that would be used to pay for it for 2021. And that comes directly from the state. So it's not something that I can control. We're waiting on that.
Okay, thank you.
All equipment's kind of tricky these days. I mean, try to order a laptop, and see how long you're waiting. It's just supply chains, that sort of stuff. But
yeah. Jessica, with the grant you just mentioned, do we know that grant is approved and we don't know when it's going to come in, or we don't know whether we're approved?
So typically that grant, the request for applications is released over the summer. And this year it was not. And I've asked several times when we can expect that, because it's a January 1st through December 31st grant. So they released the application period for 2020, but then the funding is approved for 2021. They haven't done that yet. And I'm not sure what the delay is, other than the state wants to hold on to as much money as they can.
Okay.
I honestly don't know. I've asked our grants, the grants division within DHSES, and they say it's in the works, but they're awaiting
Okay.
release. So
Jason, do you have any sense of that? Is this a money saving thing that they're just not going to approve grants in this area?
By
Is
the
that a
state?
possibility?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say by far that's the only reason, is because they have no money, and they have a $15 billion deficit. Then they're not releasing anything. I mean, I have a lot of departments that are having 20% of their funding withheld. If you don't have a signed grant contract executed, the likelihood is that you won't see the money right away, or it goes through a very long and drawn out process where the DOB has to approve every single expenditure. So I would say that's exactly the reason why.
Okay, so the short answer is Henry should continue to call 911. Don't text. Okay, and dismal news from our state. All right, anything else for Department of Emergency Response? We have Department of Probation, and I see Dan Cornell is with us. Welcome.
Hello, thank you, Rich. How are you? Hi, everybody.
Very good, very good. I see your numbers are creeping back up.
Well, they
People
were
under supervision.
They were until the courts, had to scale back a little bit. So I think we're going to see them trend downward again. Our criminal court supervision levels for this month, we have 474 cases. Again, the beginning of the year, we had 549. Everyone has the document in front of them, I'm sure. Seeing a fluctuation in family court cases that seems to ebb and flow. We're definitely getting fewer PINS cases because a lot of those referrals come from the schools, and the schools are obviously doing various levels of in-school and remote learning. So we're not getting truancy reports like we normally would. As long as the kid is logging on, they're not considered truant. But all in all, we've been fairly busy. We're getting a lot more investigations in, both on the criminal court side and a few family court. We are hoping the numbers sort of level out and there's not a huge decrease in incoming work, but we certainly have plenty of people to supervise at the current level. We are submitted a density reduction plan for the office today, which is going to go into effect tomorrow. Basically formed 3 cohorts of staff. There's one cohort that's going to be fully remote. It's only 4 individuals, a couple of whom are attached to the health department now to assist with the COVID tracing efforts up there. And then split the POs and supervisors up. So basically we'll have one cohort here every other day in order to try to defend against the entire department getting wiped out if COVID were to, if someone in the department was to contract COVID-19. So we're in good shape with that. I think it's going to allow us to continue to provide good quality services to the courts and the clients, because there'll only be, we'll have people working remotely one day and then they'll be in the office the next. So that alternating schedule won't leave any extended periods of time where clients or courts can't reach the PO that they need to speak with. People will also be available. People working remotely will be available by telephone because they will have laptop computers with soft phone capability. So everyone will be accessible every day, just whether or not they're actually here in the office will be every other. Today we've been busy. Almost everybody in the department's volunteered for a shift, a short shift at one of the Cops, Kids, and Toys distribution locations. That program ends today. 1,300 children will be getting kids, and 570 families are impacted with gifts from the Cops, Kids, and Toys program. So we're proud to be part of that. Got a couple IPD officers down here at day reporting, assisting with that as well. And I'm sure there's other officers sprinkled through the county at other sites. So once that wraps up, we're going to continue to offer community service supervision with our current SWAP officer. However, we're going to ask that people transport themselves to the work sites, because us transporting them in the confined space of a van is fairly risky. We are going to close the day reporting program as part of the new cohort system, but just there's no way to consistently man that program. And I've notified the magistrates, and I think Matt and Lance were on that list as well, of what the plan is. But Carl and I, Deputy Director Brackett, and I will be here every other day as well. So she'll be here on the days that I'm not, but we'll be accessible by telephone. And
Okay.
staff seem to have accepted it, and we're enthusiastic about the level of cooperation we've gotten from William George Agency, who loaned us some laptops until we get the ones that we ordered, which, as Brian referred to, you can order a laptop now and expect to get it around February or March. So we were able to borrow a few from the William George Agency, and we were also given some more by ITS that were spares, I think, that Dewar had given out. So we'll be in good shape with equipment and being able to function well from remote locations.
Okay. I see Mike Sigler, welcome. And any questions, comments for our probation department? Yeah, I did see the extensive purchase of laptops, and it's probably a good thing that you're getting this done, but
Yes,
I'll be waiting for it.
previously we only had our family court officers that had laptops. Everyone else had a desktop, and then we had 3 that were shared amongst the rest of the department. That, of course, was in a pre-pandemic environment. It worked well because our family court officers, were stationed in the schools so they could take their laptops with them. But this purchase was, we're able to take money from other areas of the budget and purchase them. And I think it's going to be probably the trend for the future to just have laptop computers for everybody. And it'll give us more flexibility.
Okay. All right, anything further?
Resolution, Rich.
Well, thank you, Dan. Oh, thank you for. Let me just get to it. This is on page 26, document ID 9784, appropriation from contingent fund, terminal pay, Department of Probation and Community Justice. Could I get somebody to move that? Glenn?
Move.
Need a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mike. Okay. Any questions or comments?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, Henry.
Okay, in the second whereas, it talks about that Department of Probation Community Justice had 1 transition workforce specialist retire on December 30th, 2020.
Yes, she accepted the early retirement, Mr. Granison. So her last day of work is the 30th of December this year. But she's been out on furlough since July.
So should it say will be retiring, or does it, or is there a reason why you have it in the past tense? Or a future event?
I don't have an answer for that.
I guess declare her retirement, but I think it's okay as written.
Okay.
Well, we can change it. What would you propose for the language?
Will retire?
How about declare her retirement
Fine.
on December 30th, 2020? Okay. All right, with that change, is that friendly to the mover and seconder?
Friendly.
Glenn?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I will call the roll. Glenn?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Mike?
You mute, Mike.
Yes.
All right. And the chair votes yes, so that passes. And Glenn, thank you for reminding me on that. Is there any other business to come before the Public Safety Committee? Seeing none, I just want to thank everybody for their work this year. We've certainly had a very strange time, but we've gotten through it, and I'm confident we'll get through the rest of this in 2021 and hopefully come out in a better place. So any further questions, comments from anybody? Okay,
Happy
well,
holiday.
thank you. Everybody have a good holiday. Yeah. All right. And we'll see y'all soon.
Thanks, Rich.